We are talking to fantasy and betting for the established run and previously on NBC Sports Edge. Knows a lot about football, Mr. Jack Miller. Jack, how you doing, sir?
I'm good. Thank you guys for having me on. How are you guys tonight?
We're doing
Doing
great.
all right,
You're gonna
man.
feel even better because Errol's not here, so you're in great hands with the two of us because we're not gonna insult anybody or hurt anybody's feelings. Okay, it's gonna be
Glad to hear it. Glad to
a
hear it.
pleasure. But we're glad to have you on. First up, how are you doing? How's your family doing with the COVID situation and stuff like that going on?
I'm good. Family's good. We actually a couple weeks ago, I had a cough, but I kept testing negative for COVID. I actually still have the cough a little bit, but
Isn't that crazy?
I don't think it was COVID. Hopefully it wasn't COVID, but no one else in my family got it, so I
That's
think
so
we're all
crazy.
good.
You can't even cough or sneeze out of it. He says, COVID. I got an 8-month-old at home. And my wife had COVID a few months ago, and she had to leave the house for a week. And thank God neither my son or I got it because my wife carpools to go to work. Yet I went to Vegas in May, and I didn't get anything. And she's in carpool, and she got it after a day. So none of this makes sense. I don't get it at this point. But we're glad to have you on the show for sure. I know. This is when training camps are starting up. Everybody's feeling happy. We're ecstatic, right? I'm a Jet fan. Speedy's a Giant fan. We're feeling, well, maybe Speedy not so much. He's probably not thrilled still, but that's him. We're feeling great. Super Bowl aspirations. The New York Jets are going to be great again. They're going to bring it back. This is it. 1968, what a joke. And then you realize you got to settle the expectations down. What are some stories in training camp that you have seen so far that stick out to you the most where you're like, I'm reading this, and I think maybe this team could be a surprise this year.
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess when we're talking about training camp storylines, the two big ones would be the ones that aren't really happening on the field, and that would be the Watson suspension, which is still coming at some point, and then the Kamara potential suspension might happen this year, might happen next year. We don't know when that's going to happen. But as far as on-field stuff, there hasn't been a whole bunch of news so far. It's mostly kind of backups and late round guys that are getting hyped up right now. Not a bunch going on with the early rounders. So I would say just right now, it's just kind of Watson and Kamara watch from a fantasy standpoint, at least.
So DK Metcalf got a big deal with the Seahawks just a couple hours ago, $24 million a year, essentially for a 3-year deal. So are you surprised he stayed in Seattle? And how does it affect his fantasy value now staying in Seattle, being that now he's going to be stuck with some bad QBs?
Yeah, it's not looking great for the Seahawks passing game this year with Geno Smith is currently getting the first team reps. He's currently the betting favorite actually to start week 1 over Drew Lock, who they traded for obviously in the Russell Wilson trade. So from a short-term perspective, Metcalf this year not in the best shape, but I mean just long-term he's going to be there for a few years. Seahawks are going to look to upgrade the quarterback position. You got to think as soon as possible, maybe even this offseason if Jimmy Garoppolo gets cut by the 49ers, he could wind up in Seattle. So I think short-term it's not looking great for Metcalf, and then you just hope sometime while he's still in this contract over the next 3 years, they can get someone who can actually get him and Tyler Lockett the ball.
This has been driving me nuts the last few days. I'm not even joking. If I hear Tyreek Hill say one more thing great about Tua Tagovailoa, I'm going to snap. He says, they asked him the question, and I'm sure you heard this story. Why did you pick the Jets over the Dolphins? He said, Zach Wilson's a dog. He's very popular in the MILF community now. It's great for him. God bless that kid. That's my quarterback. Good. He grew up, it's great. And then he goes, but I wanted to go to the most accurate quarterback in the league. And then I said to myself, so why did you leave Patrick Mahomes then? That's the part that I'm trying to figure out. I'm getting so many Jack Antonio Brown vibes from this guy right now. It's scaring me with the words and the things that are coming out of his mouth. What does he really believe this, you think, or is he just do you believe the Dolphins are this team this year with him there?
I don't really think so. I mean, you saw what did you saw? I assume the Davante Adams thing. Like he was asked what it's
with
like
the Hall
going
of Fame
from
thing.
The Hall. I think Tyreek's kind of doing the same thing. Like he just has to pump up his new quarterback. I think he knows in his heart of hearts that Tua is not the most accurate quarterback in the NFL, and that he was just playing with a quarterback that was much better. than Tua, but he's got to pump up the new guy, and it is good content. It is pretty funny what he's doing, just juicing up Tua this much. And for Tua, it's really like a prove a year because now he has no excuses. He has Tyreek and Waddle, and I mean Tyreek is not exactly lowering the bar in terms of expectations. So Tua has definitely a lot to live up to this year.
And really quick before Speedy goes, it's just so funny because it's like they showed the highlight pass when the mini camps opened up back in, what was it? I think it was May or whatever it was. They showed a highlight of Tua throwing a ball, and it was like 8 yards underthrown to Tyreek Hill, and he had to come back and catch it.
Oh, yeah, that one was ripped on Twitter, yeah.
And I literally was like, holy crap, whoever the Dolphins digital content guy is, you should be fired on the spot for that. What a terrible highlight to put. Holy crap. I mean, what the hell were you thinking? But I'll let Speedy go. It just boggles my mind that I get Antonio Brown vibes right now.
So I want to ask directly about the fantasy impact of that kind of thing. Tyreek Hill, in a running system, maybe he'll get some yardage. I don't know if him or Jalen Waddle will be that guy with a 49ers type system now coming to Miami. We saw that with Deebo Samuel. Do you see that kind of thing with Tyreek Hill, and how much do you think that'll impact his value? And also Davante Adams, we talked about too, now going from Aaron Rodgers to Derek Carr. So those two guys switching teams, what do you think that'll make a difference?
Yeah, I think the Dolphins are really an interesting setup right now because, like you said, they brought Mike McDaniel over, and that lead you to believe that they're going to be a run-first team. But the way that their offense is set up with Tyreek and Waddle and Gesicki, like they have good receivers. And then their RB1 is Chase Edmonds, who's more of a pass-catching back. They have Mostert and Sony behind them. So I'm just kind of interested to see what they end up doing. We, in our projections at Established Run, we have a pretty balanced offense for the Dolphins right now. We don't think it's going to be super run heavy just because with Tyreek and Waddle, like it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to like just pound the rock all the time. But we definitely think that there will be some designed runs for Tyreek and Waddle, just utilizing that speed on the outside. And then with Adams, I think it's a downgrade for sure, as much as he, doesn't want to acknowledge it, going from Rodgers to Carr. But there's going to be a whole lot of shootouts in that division. He's still going to be the obvious alpha wide receiver. He's still probably the best receiver in the league. I think his fantasy value takes a hit, but I think he's still a fine pick at the end of the first round or the start of the second.
Zach Wilson's banging MILFs, and according to his head coach, his legs are thick. That's what we've heard about Zach Wilson so far this offseason. Jack, the New York Jets are going to go what this year? And do you believe they also have a shot at the playoffs with the way this roster, especially after signing Quan Alexander today?
Yeah, I think I don't think it's
now. Come on, Jack. Don't do this. I'm already upset about them enough.
Well, I mean, off the field, it's going well for Jets fans as far as the recent Zach Wilson news. But on the field, I think their win total in Vegas is 6.5. So they're expected to win like 6 or 7 games. I'm not going to say that they can't make the playoffs because, I mean, their offense, if Wilson can put it together, could be like pretty fun. They have good receivers with Elijah Moore, Garrett Wilson, Corey Davis. They have a solid line. They have 2 good running backs. It really just all comes down to Wilson, and he was not great last year. But if he can put it together, then they could be a surprise playoff team. But I would not,
Neither would I. I'm just busting your balls. Neither would I. Listen, this is why I always say to people, you're ready. I've been a Jet fan for so long, and this is why you should be thankful Errol's not here, because Errol would be pumped. Errol told me before we got on the show, I'm filling in for him tonight. He goes, the Jets could be really good this season. And I said to him, listen, guy, here's how I look at the New York Jets. I don't put any stock into them anymore. Okay? If the Jets are great, it's a nice surprise. If they suck, I say, well, you see, I told you so. This is what happens when I get too high on this team. So to me, that's how the vibe I go with the New York Jets now. But I'll let Speedy go. But, I think it all depends, like Jack said, it depends on how Zach Wilson develops. That's the important thing.
So we've seen a lot of receivers also move to their second contracts now, and a lot of teams are worried about that. We just saw Julio Jones now on his 3rd contract now signed with the Buccaneers. A lot of these other veterans get bumped around too. Do you think the receiving position is going to be something that is prioritized more in terms of just getting younger right away, rather than a lot of these older guys like Allen Robinson that have bumped around all these different teams?
I'd say so, and I'd say especially, with the high-end wide receiver contracts, what we're seeing now, like Metcalf today, we saw McLaurin, Tyreek, Davante Adams. they're just getting paid like a ton. What teams might look to do is start drafting these receivers like they did. I mean, we saw a lot of receivers in the first round this year. And we saw the Titans actually trade AJ Brown because they didn't want to pay him to the Eagles, and then they drafted Traylon Burks. And obviously Traylon Burks is not AJ Brown, but he's on a rookie contract for the next 4 or 5 years. And so I think maybe that's the way teams are going to do it, is just not, want to pay these guys that much. And so they look to draft their receivers early so that they can get them on rookie contracts instead of paying them $25 million a year.
Obviously, we got to talk about the elephant in the room. That would be DeShaun Watson. I haven't been on the show, obviously. Like I said, I'm filling in, but I've heard it nonstop on the show. Speedy knows this. It's the topic every week. How long do you see him being suspended for? Because they have Jacoby Brissett there. Yay, as I do that sarcastically. Then they signed Josh Rosen. Woohoo! Now we're really celebrating.
Hey, we're waiting for the Josh Rosen beats Baker Mayfield week 1 storyline.
Oh my God! Let me tell you something really quick. When I saw Sam and Baker walking out together for Panthers training camp, it made me want to throw up with the two of them.
I wanted the Panthers to sign Josh Rosen just to complete the trifecta.
Exactly. You might as well. I mean, the only one that's good is Josh Allen, so he won't go there. But how long, realistically, do you actually anticipate DeShaun being suspended for? Because people have varied from 4 games to 8 games to the season to – will he play again? Is this – who knows?
Yeah, I guess I'll preface by saying I don't think like anyone really has that great of an idea. We're all kind of just waiting. But it seemed like earlier in the offseason, it was trending toward like a full season / indefinite, and then they'd reevaluate after season. But lately, kind of all the news is like 4 to 8 to 10 to 12 games. And so I guess having, no real idea, we're all kind of just waiting. I would guess somewhere in that 8 to 10 range, just because that seems to be the way it's trending right now. But that's just like a complete guess. Like I really don't know, but it does seem like at one point the favorite was for the whole season, but it kind of doesn't seem that way anymore.